So Teo beats Rolly, and here is my post-fight analysis. Let's get straight into this. So in round one, Teo takes the center of the ring. So he takes the center of the ring, so he's taking a dominant position, and he's using the feints, and he's clearly defensively aware. Remember, Rolly is a very powerful puncher. Rolly has a lot of foot movement. He's moving from side to side. He looks very focused. But at this point, there are no punches. Teo is a bit more busier with the jab, just slightly busier with the jab. Teo's left hand is low, but he's using feints and he's using his feet as defensive weapons. This is a very quiet round, but I would give Teo the edge. So going into round two, Teo is starting to use the right hand to the head. And Teo again is taking the center of the ring. So he's taking a dominant position. And interestingly, Rolly isn't challenging him for the center. Teo is at times, he's like tapping Rolly's gloves. And clearly this is a deflection tactic. Maybe he's trying to set up that left hook or set up that backhand. But he's clearly doing that. Or maybe he's just trying to negate Rolly's jab. Rolly again is moving left to right. He's feinting, but he's not throwing. And remember, Rolly's a very powerful puncher. So when he feints, you know, Teo's going to react. But again, and Teo is just a little bit more busier. I think at this point, Rolly is probably very aware of Teo's counter-punching ability, and that's why he's being very defensive-minded. But that might cost him. So going into round three, Teo is still dominating the center of the ring, and there is still no resistance from Rolly with regards to this dominant position. Teo is getting some momentum with the jab. Rolly, I would say Rolly is composed. He's defensively aware, but is he being too composed? And Teo's jab is now starting to find the body. Both boxers, again, they're defensively responsible. They're not taking many risks. And again, I just think Rolly is just too aware of Teo's counter ability, and this is negating him throwing punches. So going into round four, I feel like Rolly needs to make some adjustments here, and Teo is starting to feint with the right. It's like he's pushing his right hand out there, possibly setting a trap. Maybe he's trying to deflect. Maybe he's trying to use his right hand to control Rolly's jab. But he's introducing something new. Rolly lands a quick backhand, and it's really quick, a really sharp, quick right hand. And Rolly is moving Teo. Rolly is moving and Teo is touching the body with the jab. And again, Rolly is moving a lot, but he's not busy. So he's moving a lot, which is making him an evasive target, but there's just not enough punches. And Teo does an interesting combination here. He does a short left hook to the head and then a straight right to the body. So the short left hook to the head, that's like the deflection to set up the straight right to the body. And that's working. He's done that like, you know, once or twice now. Now at this moment, a beautiful counter left from Rolly lands. And he clearly needs more of this. Rolly needs to be more defensively minded. The counter left hand was good, but I don't think it's enough to win him the round. So going into round five, and again, I feel like Rolly needs to make some adjustments. He needs more of those short left hooks. So Rolly needs to feint and he needs to throw. And Rolly again, he's still moving a lot. Teo again lands that left hook to the head and the straight right to the body. So that's his combination, head, body, and it's landing, and Rolly's not countering it. However, Rolly is starting to throw that short left hook. He's getting a little bit of momentum with it, and he lands it, and Teo is cut. And this encourages Rolly to throw this big right hand counter, and it lands. Now, Teo is cut, Rolly lands a big right hand, and finally Rolly starts to let his hands go. All of a sudden, Rolly has gone from being defensively responsible and not throwing any punches to being absolutely explosive. At this point, he's punching through the target, he's looking dangerous, and he's looking very powerful. So this is a transformation in the fight, and Rolly is now taking a dominant position in the ring. At this point, the fight has changed, and Teo's face is full of blood. Teo reacts by talking directly to Rolly, but objectively, Rolly is getting momentum, and it's that short left hook that's being effective. Now, Rolly is in the fight now in a big way, and this has introduced a big psychological shift with that big right hand and that explosiveness. So going into round 6, if I'm in Rolly's camp, I'd want to build on that momentum. From Teo, he needs to now make the adjustment. So again, Rolly is looking for the counter left, and Teo is back. He's back to the center ring, and Rolly's not even contesting it. I feel at this point Teo needs to feint more to draw out that left hook. But Teo is jabbing the body, and he's using the half step. He's using the defensive half step. Rolly is being patient. He's being very patient, but at this point, I think he's being too patient. We need to bring back that explosiveness. And Teo is now investing in the body work. He's letting jabs go to the body. Now he's letting straight rights go to the body and the occasional left hook. Rolly is being defensively responsible, but he is not throwing. I don't think this is the necessary adjustment. And this now is a good comeback round for Teo. And there's an important thing that's happening here. The cut, which looked quite significant in the round before, is now being managed by the corner. So Rolly, by being defensively minded after that good 5th round, has now conceded that momentum. So before we go into round 7, I just want to remind everyone, don't forget to download my free chapter from my boxing book. So if you check the pinned comment below, download the free chapter and enjoy. So now let's go to round 7. So Teo's left is mainly low. Sometimes he'll go from here, but mainly his left hand is very low. And Teo again is taking the center of the ring, and he's busy with the left hand. I don't like the way Rolly's conceding that. Rolly is still looking for that lead left hook. It's short, it's powerful, but he's simply not punching enough. I think now Rolly needs to make adjustments. Teo is being busier, and there's a good right hook to the body from Teo. I believe it's set up with a few feints. Rolly lands a check hook at the end. Nice punch, but again, Rolly needs to be more offensive. I think going into round 8, I just think Rolly just needs to be more creative and he needs to be more offensive. He needs to maybe move less and maybe start to get into a dominant position. He needs to get back to where he was in round 5. So anyway, going into round 8, and now Teo he's really starting to bend his knees. He's got quite a wide stance, and Rolly actually starts this round in a dominant position, which is a good psychological sign. Teo, again, is jabbing the hands this time, and sometimes he's jabbing the chest and then the face, so he's being multifarious with the jab. Again, the cut seems to be under control. Rolly looks like he's looking for counters, but is he waiting too long? Teo is now moving away, and there's a nice catch and counter from Teo. Again, Rolly needs to punch more, and he needs to take more risks. And to me, this is another round for Teo. And again, the main narrative here is that Rolly is not making the right adjustments. He's not accelerating with his punch output. Now, what's interesting here is that Teo's corner seems quite chaotic, but Teo is calm. And like I said, Rolly needs to roll the dice. So going into round 9, Teo is starting to feint. And he's feinting with the right hand. Sometimes he's pushing out the right hand, and he's even sometimes dipping to his left. So clearly he's very confident. And Teo is he's being busy to the body. He's hitting that body on a regular occasion. So he's making that investment and scoring points. Rolly again is looking for that left, but he needs to do more and he needs to be more creative. He needs to let the backhand go, whether it's behind a feint, whether it's behind a jab, whether it's behind a double jab, whether it's behind a short left hook. He just needs to bring some creativity, but Rolly is still in this defensive posture. He's still being too defensive. And again, we need to see that explosiveness of round 5. Going into round 10, again, Teo is taking the center of the ring. For the majority of the fight, Teo has been in a dominant position. And I'm asking myself, why is Rolly not throwing? And I think he's just worried about that counter. Teo is finding the backhand to the body, and I feel that Rolly should counter this. This is where boxing IQ is so intelligent, or boxing IQ is so essential, because when an opponent is throwing punches to the body, that's an optimum time to counter. But Rolly just doesn't seem to be processing that information. Teo now is using some foot pressure, so there's a subtle change in the fight now. Teo is starting to use more front foot pressure. And he actually finds a nice right hand to the head, and Teo is starting to be a little bit more aggressive. So there's a little psychological change. Rolly throws a sneaky right, and Teo counters immediately. So Teo is very defensively aware. Yes, he's putting on more front foot pressure, which should give Rolly more opportunities. But when Rolly lets that right hand go, and it's a short, sneaky right hand, Teo is still in a position to throw that right hand counter. So I feel like Rolly is trying to take away Teo's counters, but ultimately he's taking away his offense. So going into round 11, and again, I feel from my perspective that Rolly needs to make those adjustments. He needs to be aggressive. Teo takes the center of the ring. Again, Rolly needs to be creative. He needs to, maybe think with the right, throw the left hook, double jab, right hand, short left hook, right hand, maybe, right uppercut to the head, left hook to the body. He needs to introduce something different. And regardless of the technical nuances, he needs to roll the dice. His psychology needs to change. He is too defensive. Teo is putting on more front foot pressure, and this should provide some opportunities for Rolly. And we should give Teo credit here, because maybe Rolly's being defensive because of the effective pressure that Teo is putting him under. Rolly now is starting to throw the left hook a little bit more, and that's a dangerous, powerful short left hook. Rolly lands a really nice right hand, and he really needs more of this. So now we're going into round 12, and I think Rolly just needs to throw caution to the wind. He needs to really go for the knockout. So going into round 12, Teo takes the center of the ring again. Rolly is moving, and he's bending his legs more, but he just needs to be more aggressive. He needs to let his hands go. Teo is being busy to the body, and again, there's no counters from Rolly, and potentially, when Teo is tapping to the body or when he's throwing those punches to the body, there are counter opportunities, but Rolly is not taking them. Teo is looking for that counter right hand, and not only is he looking for that counter right hand, he's pushing Rolly now to the rope, so he's getting more aggressive. So again, psychologically, there's just a little subtle shift, and that's the end of the fight. How do we conclude this fight? Well, that was a strange performance from Rolly, a very strange performance from Rolly, and I would say an intelligent performance from Teo. Rolly clearly came into this fight very defensive. He was very defensive, tried to fight a technical fight, and I wonder if in hindsight whether that was the right fight to fight. Anyway, so the decision is announced. Teo wins. One judge actually had it a draw, which is absolutely wild, but the right man won. It was an educated performance from Teofimo Lopez. Rolly, he has power. That short left hook is powerful. That right hand is brutal, but he hardly ever threw it, and he definitely did not throw it enough. Teo clearly outworked Rolly Romero. He made adjustments. He made the right adjustments at the right time. And I think the crucial thing here is that Teo was offensive, but he also remained defensively responsible, because he knows that Rolly Romero is a very powerful puncher. Ultimately, this was a chess match. It wasn't like a very entertaining match, apart from round 5. Rolly just, again, he didn't make the necessary adjustments. The only time he made an effective adjustments was in round 5, and he made a significant impact in round 5 with that viciousness, that short left hook, that big counter right hand. But then he abandoned that acceleration that hurt him. It's almost like Rolly opened the door to victory in round 5, but then closed the door and then opened the door of defeat. And the psychology of Rolly Romero seems quite interesting. I hear, and I'm not sure if this premise is correct, but I hear he has mental struggles and he is a man of faith. I think the positive thing is that he can come back. I think the main thing here is that he needed to roll the dice and he refused to roll the dice. I think that the counter ability of Teofimo, I think Rolly was very aware of that, and he was unwilling to just take that gamble. And he was unwilling to do it. The only time he did do it was in round 5, and he had all of that success. And I guess looking at the performance objectively, if Rolly could duplicate that round 5 effort and make better adjustments, then he could get back into contention. But like I said, it was a strange performance, very strange performance. And I think he needs to go back to the drawing board on this one. For Teofimo Lopez, this is another title. The Shakur loss, that took away the ladder, but this win has created a new ladder. And let's be clear, round 5 was a moment of adversity. He was cut, it looked like he was hurt, and Rolly was being aggressive, very aggressive, and being dominant in that moment. And Teo, he passed that test. Okay, let's finish this off with some questions. So question 1, did Teofimo win this fight through intelligence and discipline rather than pure explosiveness? I would say definitely. I think this was an intelligent and disciplined performance from Teo. He wasn't reckless. He didn't give Rolly Romero many punch opportunities. He didn't give him many counter-punching opportunities. He punched mainly at the target as opposed to through the target, and it was tactically an intelligent performance. And even when he had issues with the short left hook, particularly in round 5 in the big right hand, he did make the necessary adjustments. So I think, yes, I think he won it through intelligence and discipline. It wasn't an explosive performance because it wasn't that type of fight. And I think it favored Teo for it not to be an explosive performance, because the only time the fight became explosive was in round 5. Question 2, why did Rolly abandon the aggression that made him so dangerous in round 5? I'm assuming the reason he abandoned it because the success in round 5 came first from the short left hook and then from the big right hand. And I think that Teo made defensive adjustments which made it harder for him to land that short left hook. So I think that's one of the main reasons. He took away that offensive weapon. Also, when Teo was cut and he got hit with that big right hand, that gave Rolly the confidence to be able to become aggressive and start punching through the target. And it seemed to me that in the rest of the fight, I wouldn't say that Rolly wasn't confident maybe to punch with Teo, but I think he was just aware of Teo's ability, his counter-punching ability, and that in itself negated his own work output. And that kind of was the significant chapter in this fight. But definitely for Rolly Romero to have been successful in that fight, he needed to duplicate that round 5, and he needed to make those adjustments. When Teo made the adjustments to catching the left hook, Rolly needed to make adjustments to land the left hook, and he didn't. Question 3, was Rolly too worried about Teofimo's counters, and did that fear ultimately take away his offense? Maybe fear isn't the right word. He was just aware of how good a counterpuncher Teo is. So his defensive responsibility was negating, or was an attempt to negate Teo. But what it did, Teo, I think, saw the play, utilized his boxing intelligence, and just was touching the body and just simply outworked Rolly. Because if Rolly would have started throwing loads of punches, then that would have created counter opportunities for Teo. So yes, if Rolly rolled the dice, he would have increased his chances of victory, but he ironically would have also increased not only his chances for defeat, but his chances of getting hurt, stopped, etc., knocked down. So I feel like the credibility with regards to Teofimo's counters, I feel like Rolly was very aware of that. And the only time when he threw caution to the wind was round 5. But if you take away round 5, he definitely, was controlled by that. But I don't think it was fear. I think it was a strategic decision. Question 4. Did Teo's body jab and front foot pressure quietly control the entire structure of the fight? I think the body jab, that picked up points. Of course, when you're getting jabbed to the body, that's going to hurt. I think the tapping of the gloves negated any jabs from Rolly Romero. So I think that was an important strategy. I think the front foot pressure became subtly more aggressive later in the second half of the fight. Now this gave Rolly probably more opportunities to land the short left hook, but he just wasn't able to make those adjustments. But that front foot pressure, I think it enabled Teo to win the rounds perhaps more clearly from a psychological perspective, but it did give Rolly theoretically more chances, but Rolly wasn't able to find those opportunities. And I guess it was tactical aggression. That's what it was. It was intelligent front foot pressure that was subtle. Question 5. Was round 5 the moment Rolly opened up the door to victory, only to close it on himself in the rounds that followed? Yeah, and I guess only Rolly can answer that question. Clearly, the short left hook, Teo was having trouble timing the short left hook, and then you had the cut, and then you had the big right hand, and then you had that opportunity. And in fairness, Rolly Romero seized the moment. He became aggressive. He became explosive. And you got to give Teo some credit here, because clearly, if Rolly would see an opportunity, he would take it. But Teo's composure, Teo's discipline, Teo's intelligent boxing didn't give him that opportunity again. So that round 5 gave us a glimpse in what Rolly could do if Teo negated his defensive responsibilities. Also, I think the talking at the end of the round, I'm not sure how much of an effect that had, but it definitely communicated that Teo was here to fight. He wasn't going to lay down. And also the corner work did a great job in managing the cut. And then the adjustments in round 6 and 7 were absolutely essential. Teo showed intelligence, and he showed the ability to adapt when necessary. Question 6. What did Teofimo's response to the cut tell us about his composure, maturity, and ability to handle adversity? Well, I guess there's a collaborative thing here. It showed that he's got a good corner that can handle cuts effectively. And it showed that that short left hook, which opened up the cut, he showed that he downloaded the data and he made the necessary adjustments. He made the necessary adjustments either with the hand placement or with the step back. And he even, I believe, started trying to counter the left hook. I think he tried to counter with the left, or sometimes catch and counter with the right. So he made the necessary adjustments. Boxing, in a sense, from this context, is like chess. Your opponent makes a position and then you react accordingly. And Teo reacted effectively. And I think that response shows that he can make tactical adjustments, but it also says something about his psychology and that decision to stay composed even when, the pressure is starting to mount. Because in round 5, there was the potential that this fight could evolve into a brutal and vicious affair. Question 7. Does Rolly need to take more calculated risks if he wants to compete with elite fighters? Without a shadow of a doubt, he needs to take more calculated risks. I can understand being reserved, and I can understand monitoring your punch output not to give opponents opportunities, but there comes a point where you just have to get more creative in trying to land your punches, and Rolly simply did not do that. He could have doubled with the left hook, tripled with the left hook, feint with the left hook, throw the right hand. He could have done a bunch of things, and he didn't make those technical adjustments. And I think one of the things that he needs to take from that fight is, yes, he showed patience, but he actually showed too much patience. Sometimes you have to grab the bull by the horns. And finally, question 8. Did this win rebuild Teofimo's ladder after the Shakur loss and put him back on the road towards another major fight? Yeah, this was another title, another victory, and it was a significant win. And it was a good bounce back from the Shakur loss, because let's get the context right. Shakur is an elite fighter, but Shakur made Teo look very ordinary that night. I wouldn't say Teo was exceptional. He was good. He was good. Maybe not great, but he was good. He understood the assignment. He downloaded the information. He overcame the adversity of round 5. He made the necessary adjustments. He kept himself composed, and he did what was necessary to win. And the reason why I say, and this might be slightly unfair. The reason why I say it's good, I think technically he was great. I think he was great with the way he rebounded from round 5. Round 5, there could have been a potential disaster. So it was great how he managed that situation. But I think ultimately it was a good performance. And I think the commentator said it was like a B. Maybe give him a B plus because he did what was necessary to win. Why do I say it's not a great performance? I think the only thing that was missing from this fight is that yes, it was a good performance, and yes, he made the right adjustments, but it wasn't a great fight. So it wasn't a great fight for the fans. It was a technical fight, but not an exciting fight. So it didn't capture, the public's imagination. But like I said, Teo was calculated, and he did overcome the resistance of round 5, and he deserves a lot of respect. Quick announcement. I have a free chapter from my boxing book. So click the link below to visit the landing page and get your free chapter. Remember to check your spam/junk folder if you don't receive it. Also, let me know what you think. Constructive feedback is always welcome.